It's on right now. It's on. The green, see the green at the bottom?
Green means it's on.
It's on. Push the button. And you see it turns red at the bottom? You see it red down there? That means off. No. That means you're off.
No one can hear you. Yes, like right now?
That's right.
Yes.
I
doubt that.
You're gonna make everybody like worry. This weekend? Oh gosh.
Well, I think the time is 1 o'clock. And we can go ahead and begin our meeting. We'd like to call to order the CPS Energy Board of Trustees meeting to be held on May 24th, 2021 at 1 p.m. At this time, we'd have invocation and pledge of allegiance by Mr. Leroy Perez.
Good afternoon. My name is Leroy Perez. I'll be giving today's invocation.
Would you like us to stand?
Sure, please. Thank you. We are thankful for this day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing important responsibilities. We ask that you would guide our thoughts and our actions so that we may have a successful meeting of the CPS Energy Board of Trustees to accomplish our goals while displaying your character. Help us to do good, to be honest, to serve others, and to fulfill our obligations to our community. We pray these things in your name. Amen. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Perez. Ms. Gold-Williams, at this time, would you give us our safety message?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Board of Trustees, today and joining us for the May board meeting. My primary commentary for safety really has to do with, again, being in the building and having our second in-person meeting, which we are glad to see heading back to a sense of normalcy. We have been working very hard. We are still doing physical distancing. Not all of our employees have been vaccinated, and people can elect whether they want to wear a mask or not wear a mask. We do have new procedures to try to work with customers that we might be interacting in the field or the payment centers, and if customers would like us to wear masks, we're going to do the best we can to accommodate those requests. But we still believe that physical distancing is very important. From the standpoint of how long are we going to continue to do physical distancing for as long as we can continue to see the vaccination take hold and try to get more of our employees vaccinated. But I do think over the summer we'll start to see more of a normalcy for our new operations, the new normal, as we would say. The good news, we had over the weekend no new cases. And we haven't seen that pretty much every single day that we've been operating during the pandemic. We've had new cases. And as you well know, over the height, we would have multiple cases in a week. That said, we do feel that there is more normalcy. Again, as I said, we are still staying diligent. We have had healthcare professionals still on premise to help answer questions, but we are relaxing. There's no required screening. There's not a requirement for temperature taking. However, we're here to answer questions and make sure that people have the right information about the pandemic. So as we proceed, we are I think, keeping pace with the community, and we're going to continue to be diligent, but we are seeing great improvement. So that is my primary safety message this week.
Okay, at this time, I've skipped it, but Ms. Shellman, if you can confirm a quorum, please?
Yes, sir, we do have a quorum. We are missing only one board member, so we have 4 members present.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Loretta to provide evacuation message and information about public comments.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Mackey. Because we're meeting in a new building for only the second time, we wanted to review the evacuation procedures so we are prepared to be safe in the event of an emergency. If you hear the fire alarm, follow the instructions in the announcement delivered through the PA system. If asked to evacuate, use the glass door exiting out of the boardroom to the outside, which would be right behind me. If that door is blocked, use the door at the rear of the room, which is right over there by the Texas flag. Verbally alert others in the room of the fire and evacuate. Then move to the main parking lot in front of the headquarters or the AT&T parking lot over the McCullough-Brooklyn bridges, whichever route is safer, and await further instructions. In the event of a situation like this, our security team will be monitoring the situation and will notify the appropriate emergency services and team members. We also have employees nearby who are trained to administer first aid if needed. Safety is a top priority at CPS Energy, and while we hope this information is never needed, we want to be sure we are always ready. We also wanted to take this opportunity to provide instructions for the public comment portion of today's meeting. The CPS Energy Board of Trustees thanks all of our public comment registrants for joining its May 24th regular board meeting. The board is always interested in hearing your input. If you have pre-registered to speak during the public comment portion of the agenda, we look forward to hearing your comments. If you've registered to provide in-person input, you will speak first in the order in which you registered, followed by virtual commenters in the order in which they registered. Individuals who have signed up to speak in person during this comment period will be allowed to enter the boardroom to provide their public comment and are welcome to watch and listen to the full board meeting in our auditorium. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you, Dr. Mackey.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to have the mayor go safety message, please.
Great, thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. Apologize for my tardiness. The sky opened up right as we were leaving. The safety message from the City of San Antonio with regard to COVID-19 is a good report today. We are going to report what will be the lowest positivity rate since the pandemic began today, and that has been in a sustained below 3% positivity rate now for well over 2 months. We are now fully in the phase of vaccinations. Due to the CDC protocol, some of our masking and social distancing guidelines have changed a little bit for city facilities, but we are strictly following the CDC guidance as it relates to those two things. With an emphasis on vaccinations, again, we've been reporting for the last few weeks that anybody who wants a vaccination who is eligible, there is one waiting for you, so we're encouraging folks to go get them. We are now just about 60% of total population has received at least 1 dose of the vaccine, and a good 50% of our population thereabouts has been fully vaccinated, and that includes ages 12 and up. So it's a good, we're at a good spot with regard to COVID-19 and bringing it under control. We're obviously being cautious as we move forward, but we're, again, I think reaping the benefit of the community working together to get us through what has been a very challenging year. So bottom line is, if you haven't gotten a vaccination or know someone who hasn't, please encourage them to go. We still have mass vaccination sites open every single day, with the exception of Sunday, and we continue to have mobile pop-up clinics scheduled throughout the community, and we'll be doing that for the foreseeable future. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, we have Loretta to come with the, sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee.
Thank you.
All right, the next agenda item is public comment, which provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts on any of this meeting's posted agenda items. Here's how the process will work. We will invite pre-registered speakers to speak in the order in which they registered, with in-person commenters speaking first, followed by virtual commenters. They may only address the board on CPS Energy related business listed on the posted agenda for this meeting. Speakers should state their first and last name, what organization or group they represent, if applicable, and indicate the agenda item number they're going to speak about. For this meeting, we have 9 registered speakers who will speak in person, and we have 2 registered speakers who will speak virtually. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. Our first in-person speaker is Molly, followed by Isabella Briseño.
How you doing, Ron? It's me, Molly. My name is Molly. I'm a very concerned citizen. I understand that CPS will be executing many disconnects on people affected by COVID at winter storms applications and other financial strife. I've seen where landlords use this utility shutoff as an intimidation tactic to get a renter to vacate a dwelling despite CDC moratorium protections. So my question to CPS, are you working with the Texas Apartment Association to further intimidate renters with this massive utility shutoff disconnect? Also, if you disconnect these households, many people will be facing homelessness because, as you know, SAHA, San Antonio Housing Authority, doesn't help people if an apartment has no electricity. You will be responsible for many, many voucher terminations of hundreds of poor people who have no other means to housing. Lastly, if you proceed with this mass disconnect, you will be responsible for many people who need electricity to run their medical devices. People will die if they don't have working oxygen ventilators and other medical devices. Their blood will be on your hands. Please don't disconnect these households. Work with the city programs as you advertise nightly, as they seek assistance and are being approved by rental utility assistance. Thank you, Bexar County resident, Molly.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Isabella Briseño, followed by Lexi Garcia.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees and Mayor. I'm Isabella Briseño, an organizer with Texas Rising and a San Antonio resident. I am here today to urge you to exercise basic human compassion by not resuming disconnections until at least the end of 2021, along with other, again, decent, common sense, compassionate measures. Due to factors such as your Spruce coal plant, our planet is struggling, and as a result, we're seeing weather we have not seen before. This summer will be no exception, as each is expected to be hotter than the last. I don't know about you, but summers here since I was a little kid have felt too hot for me, and certainly too hot to go without power. By pushing for disconnections ahead of this season, or any season, as we saw earlier this year that we are not prepared for many kinds of weather events, is a death sentence for working class San Antonians. Children, animals, the elderly, and those who rely on medical devices do not deserve to die or go without because of a public utility's greed. At a minimum, one way or another, but especially if you truly have the heart to resume disconnections, which I suspect you do, we need a true critical care program that ensures a stable power supply to those with medical conditions. If you are the kind of people that would resume disconnections, but please feel free to prove me wrong, you must reduce to the fullest extent possible excess power costs from Storm Uri. These things should be put in place either way, right? Before I conclude, I want to once again beg my public utility to not kill people this summer by resuming disconnections. We all have a right to live in comfort and safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Lexi Garcia, followed by Elizabeth Montgomery.
Hello, Board of Trustees. My name is Lexi Garcia. I'm an organizer with Texas Rising, a member of the Recall CPS Coalition, as well as a resident and ratepayer. I'm here to speak to this board and express the shame each of you should feel at the choices it deliberately makes against its customers to keep us in the dark, literally, but also in your lack of communication and responsiveness to community. Additionally, I want to highlight how incredibly out of reality trustee member Ed Kelly's comments about pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and telling us figure it out are, if you know anything about how so many San Antonians actually experience low wages, bills, and the true cost of living economically segregated. It is for these reasons that Ed Kelly should resign, and someone whose main motivator is people, not profit, should be appointed. Mayor Ron, you have the power to persuade council to build a board that will be responsive to people, and have asked that as mayor, we should hold you accountable. Yet you continue to go along with the unaccountable decision-making body and don't use your position outside of its one dimension to bring about a start to transformative reforms. From racism we see every day in the streets carried out by SAPD to the refusal to indefinitely run a poisonous coal plant in an 80% non-white area, the actions of this board are environmental racism. Further, this board has allowed that the rate advisory committee to be outweighed by big business and developers. None of these can be separated from each other, and it's time that the board take the bold action we continually show up and say that we need. The recommendations that other climate organizers have given time and time again and make good on the commitment of people first. Because disconnections raising rates is only putting one thing first, and that's your greed. Heat and lights are human rights, and we demand no disconnections, no rate increases, because not a single one of us should bear the financial or human cost of CPS Energy's abject failure to listen to the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Elizabeth Montgomery, followed by Greg Harmon.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Montgomery and I live in 78232 and I'm speaking about agenda item number 4. Please note for the record that people have rallied and gathered together today to request from CPS Energy to have no rate hikes and no disconnections. This meeting time is designed to receive low public engagement as it is scheduled in the middle of the workday. We are in a pandemic. Many are still recovering from Winter Storm Uri, and the 2014 San Antonio Tomorrow vulnerability assessment highlighted an increased risk of heat waves in which San Antonio will have increased days over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. As a reminder, included in the city's Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, to which CPS Energy contributed $500,000, the city committed to ensure climate equity. Rate hikes and disconnections are in direct conflict with 4 out of the 5 of the CAP commitments. Those commitments include access and equity and affordability. Rate hikes and disconnections will have a disproportionate negative impacts on many communities. The other city commitments promote health and safety and security as outlined by the vulnerability assessment. Heat waves pose a significant health risk to young, the elderly, chronically ill, and pregnant, especially in the poorest communities that do not have access to reliable air conditioning. I stand in solidarity with the other comments stated here today. Will CPS Energy commit to no rate hikes and disconnections for the remainder of 2021? Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Greg Harmon, followed by Didi Belmaris. I'm going to call for Greg Harmon one more time. All right, our next speaker is Didi Belmares, followed by Karen Munoz.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Didi Belmares. I'm with Public Citizen. Trustee Gonzalez, I want to start off by saying that I appreciate your nomination and the opportunity to serve on the newly formed Rate Advisory Committee. I look forward to working with the other committee members, CPS Energy, and ratepayers to give input on rate structure and power generation. The Rate Advisory Committee's work comes at a critical time as you all consider resuming disconnections and a provisional rate hike for customers. We aren't done with the pandemic yet, although we're going in the right direction. There are still families and small businesses trying to recover from the financial losses from this pandemic. To add to all of this, we were hit with a winter storm that CPS Energy and the city were not prepared for, which left over 300,000 residents without electricity for days. Then there are the bills still owed to your suppliers. So I hope that y'all will consider this when making decisions about disconnections and not leave it to customers to figure it out, as Trustee Kelly heartlessly said in the last board meeting. While these comments from Trustee Kelly are not uncommon, they still have no place in our public utility. Trustee Kelly should not have the space to scare the vulnerable neighbors that are just trying to get back on their feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi. Our next speaker is Karen Munoz, followed by Aaron Arguello.
Hi, my name is Karen Munoz. I live in zip code 78229. I'm also a law student at St. Mary's. So board member Ed Kelly said that San Antonio residents should figure it out, that his family had to figure it out. Never mind that his family had to figure it out decades ago. Never mind that wages are the same as they were decades ago, while the cost of living has risen exponentially. Never mind the context that he's asking San Antonio residents to figure it out during an ongoing global pandemic, a pandemic that has led to vast increases in poverty. Never mind the additional context of a winter storm that led countless vulnerable people to live without power at the fault of CPS Energy and this board. After over 100 people registered for public comment a couple months ago and urged that you stop disconnections, that you figure out a solution that does not fall on ratepayers, and still, Trustee Ed Kelly's innovative idea is that San Antonio residents just figure it out. The cruelty of such a statement is not lost on our community. Kelly's asking ratepayers to find a third job to figure it out, to do whatever they can to pay their light bills. Never mind that people are currently being asked to pay some $600 in this building that costs how many millions of dollars? Never mind the fact that our governor just last week announced that he'll be blocking federal unemployment benefits to those who need it most. So I'm here once again to demand that you stop disconnections, that you not enact rate hikes, and that you ensure the worst of the ramifications of the winter storm do not fall on San Antonio community members. Ms. Paula Gold-Williams acknowledged that we're heading back to normal. Still, I'd like to remind you that only 15% of the population has been vaccinated. That percentage does not equal a return to normal. Second, I'd like to remind each of you that a return to normalcy for many means a new normal where they're going to face even worse poverty than they experienced 16 months ago before this pandemic ever started. Continuing disconnections and hiking up rates will only worsen this reality. Disconnections lead to evictions, evictions lead to family separation, and COVID, continued cycles of poverty, and worse. Lastly, regardless of Ms. Paula Gold-Williams' $930,000 salary, regardless of Trustee Ed Kelly's callousness, and regardless of the mayor's failure to take this issue seriously, I'd like to remind you that we own CPS Energy. Last time I spoke here, I urged you to find other solutions and suggested that we turn over Ms. Paula Gold-Williams' salary to save residents instead, right? I encourage you again to consider other solutions that won't risk the lives of San Antonio residents. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Our next speaker is Aaron Arguello, followed by Anaqua Garcia.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Arguello. I am the San Antonio Advocacy Organizer at Move Texas, and I am a CPS Energy ratepayer. As we're all aware, the winter storm of earlier this year, on top of the pandemic, caused many families to fall behind on their energy bills. And this summer, we're likely to see record-breaking heat as a result of climate change. And at Move Texas, we work every day to empower underserved youth communities, many of whom are among those struggling with their energy bills. In order to protect the most vulnerable of San Antonio residents who have already struggled enough through a difficult and strenuous year, CPS Energy must commit to zero power disconnections for non-payment through the remainder of 2021. Additionally, we need a true critical care program dedicated to ensuring stable power supply to those with medical conditions, including and especially anyone reliant on home medical devices. We also demand that CPS Energy does not pass excess power costs incurred during Winter Storm Uri down to customers to the fullest extent possible. CPS Energy is owned by San Antonio residents. It's time for those residents, especially those that are the most vulnerable, to be protected and treated with dignity and respect, not to be used to subsidize the rates of the city's largest polluters, or told they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, as we've heard here in previous board meetings. Thank you for your time. No rate hikes, no disconnections.
Thank you for your input. Our next and last in-person speaker is Anaqua Garcia. I'm going to call for Anaqua one more time. All right, we will now transition to our virtual speakers. Adrian, can you introduce our first virtual speaker?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Loretta. Our first virtual speaker is Dr. Terry Burns, followed by Dr. Meredith McGuire. Dr. Terry Burns, you'll be unmuted now, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Terry Burns, the former chair of the Locals Sierra Club. And I would like to point out a few things. You are currently spending $500,000 to slap down our citizen recall CPS petition to improve CPS. Storm Uri showed the mismanagement we have struggled to change. While Austin kept its power running and made $50 million in profits during Uri, CPS has saddled us with $1 billion in bad debt. Now you want to start disconnects of thousands of our poorest and want to approve a, quote, provisional rate increase, unquote, so you can keep up the malfeasance. At the same time, you remain years behind on making plans to shut down Spruce, dirty coal energy that failed you in Uri. You're years behind on increasing renewables and energy efficiency programs that could have provided resiliency during Uri, and over a year behind on a citizen committee to restructure your unjust rates. Despite years of community effort, you are nowhere close to cooperating with SAWS and solar arrays at H2 Oaks. I hope and urge new board leadership and newly elected mayor to get serious about a thorough review and overhaul of the many ways CPS remains a rogue agency instead of a trusted public utility. You could start by requesting voluntary dismissal of the SLAP ruling against our citizen constitutional right to petition. And you could also simplify this terrible maze you force us through to get on to speak. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Our next and final virtual speaker is Dr. Meredith McGuire. Dr. Meredith McGuire, you'll be unmuted now, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Meredith McGuire with the local Sierra Club, and I'm a CPS customer. I am speaking to the agenda item in the board's packet. It's about managing affordability, to which slide 14 is in your packet. I'm very concerned. The slide's banner claims that managing the affordability impact over time is our utmost priority, but we have reason to doubt that claim. We have the reason to doubt that claim applies to the residential and commercial customers who are struggling with affordability already. We don't need any rate hikes to those people. What this board must realize is that many residential customers are already horribly overburdened by CPS bills because their incomes have been stagnant or dropping while CPS rates have increased over the last 20 years. The extra problems due to the pandemic and to the impacts of Winter Storm Uri have been yet more crushing for most of these residential customers and commercial customers. The extra problems of the pandemic and the impacts of Winter Storm Uri have been more crushing, and they have dragged an even larger percent of residential customers into serious financial problems. According to an article in the Express News last week, since 2001, the last year before deregulation, average industrial electricity rates in Texas declined by 7%, according to federal data ending in 2020. Over that same period, average residential rates.
Thank you for your input. That was our last registered virtual speaker. I will now turn the meeting back to Chair Dr. Mackey. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Loretta, for the safety measurements that you have given us there too. At this time, we will have the CEO report.
Thank you again, Chair Dr. Mackey and Board of Trustees. So, as usual, I have a written report. We will post this report after today's meeting. It is a different structure because I think we have to look at things differently than we've had in the past. I do have three primary things I want to talk about today. On the agenda, I do want to talk about the items 11 and 12. They are two components of our financial plan. If the board recalls, in the April meeting, we had parts 1 and 2. And 1 and 2 talked about the challenges that we've had and the objectives we've had to help our customers. We have not had disconnects in over a year. March of last year is when we started suspending disconnects. We have surveyed the activities across the state, and some utilities, some close by, some far away in Texas, have restarted disconnects. But we do understand the sensitivity. We do understand that we have a lot of customers that need help. And so, the presentation that we had last week and the message I will highlight today is that our goal is to help all customers. We have payment plans. We've gotten some assistance from the city, CARES Act funding, as well as from the county. We believe there will be some more funds that come. We do have a continual effort by our talented energy advisors to make sure that we're matching all our customers up with the different programs that we have, as well as share information about United Way programs that we think there are other assistance levels that customers can get. And then, of course, we have the Energy Angels program, which is a way that individuals can pick specific customers, a relative, a friend, to help them. All of those things will happen. And we will not all of a sudden activate disconnects. We have not set our date, but we are definitely thinking about that. We understand that's a challenge in the summer. We do understand that we will continue to work with customers on high heat days. There will continue to not be any disconnects in the summer. We have not declared the reinstatement date, but I would tell you that we're going to be trying to specify that and work with you in the future about what that date will be. But clearly, our big obligation, our big commitment, our big focus is to help our customers. We definitely believe getting our customers back on their feet is the best way for the community to recover, and that's the best time afterwards that we try our best to restabilize our normal operations. Today, you will hear components 3 and 4 of the financial plan. Part 3 is a preview. We are talking about the fact that as a normal part of our operations, we from time to time need rate increases. We are proud on behalf of our customers that we've only had 1 rate increase in 7 years, and we've only had 7 years ago, and we've only had 1 in the last 11 years. So we know every single year that it's a challenge. We spend time every year understanding that San Antonio's economy is trying to come back. There continues to be quite a bit of development. We have to continue to invest in maintaining the operations and increasing reliability, just as a standard, even if you're not thinking about Storm Uri, which is another part that we're evaluating. We have to do that. We have to maintain operations. We are significantly impacted by the receivables. Because we haven't done a disconnect, because we have listened to our customers and realized they need more help and time, our delinquent accounts have increased over $100 million. And of course, there is Storm Uri. And Storm Uri gave us $1 billion incremental bill on top of costs that in a whole year aren't $1 billion. All of those things are extra added pressures far and above what we would normally do, where we're trying to cut costs and make sure that we're only asking for rate increases in years where we need them. We will continue, and our team continues to focus on trying to reduce costs every single day. We will continue to try to optimize our wholesale revenues, although I think overall wholesale revenues will be impaired this year. The wholesale numbers in the market really look like prices will be soft, and so there may not be a great opportunity as we've seen in other years. And last year was much lower than we've seen before. So what we are trying to do is talk to the community about the pressures that we see, about the things that we currently estimate. We will talk today about general estimations of what a rate increase might be, but we are definitely not asking for a rate increase today. That is an absolute separate process. When that process occurs, and we will evaluate it after the end of the summer, we will come back to the board giving you updates through the summer, but definitely to determine whether we think we might need one. That discussion we currently anticipate would be somewhere in the September or October timeframe. And again, we will tighten up the figures that you see today. Any place where we can save, we will. But again, we think what the important thing to do is to have the conversation about what it might be, to make sure that we're answering questions to the community and to customers. And we're going to spend this summer having as many conversations as we can about what it might look like, and then all our efforts we can to reduce them. We are gladly going to introduce and have more conversations with the public. We definitely think the Rate Advisory Committee is a great place for us to talk about the potentials of that. We do believe, the body is about 21 people, which is a pretty large organization, but we do also understand that there are other groups that have interest about what a rate increase might be. So we're just going to be launching a public process to discuss those things that we're considering, hear from them, answer questions, again, look at the way to improve, and all the time work to reduce costs. So that is a preview of what you'll hear. The second part of that, which is really part 4, you'll hear a presentation. The first one comes from Corey Katinsky, our new CFO. The next one comes from Shannon Albert. That is the standard presentation that you normally see when we are having to do the budget. That presentation will cover and focus on O&M costs and capital costs, and it'll be very familiar to what you see. So I do want to let you know that we put possible vote, but what we would prefer to happen is that today we give you this information. It's very important. We want to give you some more time to look at it. We'd like to hold it, work with you over this next month, and then bring it back. And again, we would only be asking for the O&M and capital budgets to be approved. You would not be asked to approve the provisional rate increase. So that's how the financial component, items 11 and 12, will be covered. I do want to give a bit of an update. Of course, as you know, the mayor led an effort that launched the City of San Antonio's Committee on Emergency Preparedness. And we have been working with the committee for over a month in that effort. And we appreciate all of the questions. There were initially 24. I think we got up to 35 RFIs, and we're still fine-tuning a certain components of that. The big thing I want to flash to the board today is we have answered all 35 RFIs as of this weekend. We know that the committee is not yet done. We know that they, though, are looking for a report date for the middle of June, maybe sooner. And so we wanted to do all we can to get them the information that they requested. We look forward to their recommendations and their observations. We are going to use that with our own plans to figure out how can we do better and work towards better reliability during extensive events and more resiliency to our systems. Which takes me to my last point, which is a written preliminary resiliency landscape and plan. A couple things to note about this report. We will be taking this to the Technology and Resiliency Committee. This is the operational component of resiliency. We will also be developing a technological aspect from the IT and security component, but this is the one that I think is a great focus of the general community today. We are going to be sharing it and talking in depth with the board, with the committee, but we also want to make sure that the board has this information. We additionally feel like the community has questions about what are we looking at as our resiliency landscape and what are the types of things that we're doing. I'm not going to, read this word for word at all. I'm going to hit some highlights in the report, but it is prepared for the board to look at and again let us know what questions that they have. It starts out again talking about how important resiliency is. We have in the report the picture of our 6 pillars on top of our financial strong foundation. I would tell you, typically when we survey customers, they primarily talk about affordability and they talk about reliability. And resiliency probably hasn't been looked at as much, but resiliency is the ability for your system to recover in the event of an issue or problem. Could be a major catastrophe, a major weather event, but whatever it is, how fast can your system recover and come back to full operation? And we believe, again, that it's important. We understand that Vice Chair Gonzalez has also thought it was so important that she renamed her committee last month. As you go into the next page, we're starting to look at, what are the challenges associated with resiliency and how to create more reliability across Texas. And we've given some examples of there are a lot of things that could affect resiliency, not just the weather. It could be an event. It could be a cyber issue. It could be a geomagnetic disturbance, all types of things that we continue to look at about the types of things that we need to defend against. We are very interested. We want to highlight that there are other parties that are coming to us with thoughts and ideas about what we could do together to actually put real projects in the ground and help improve the overall stability of the grid. In particular, I want to mention the Power Subcommittee of the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. They have a group of businesses and employers that want to talk about specific projects on their campuses that might work out and where there might be a public-private partnership. We're early in this process, but you will see more and more come out of some of the efforts and suggestions that we're getting out of the SAEDF. To make this work, I would also mention, and this is our first draft. We will continue to create iterations, maybe as frequently as monthly of this as we go. Another group that has approached us that wants to work on it are suburban cities. And we're excited about some efforts with that. We have a meeting with some suburban cities tomorrow, the first of, I think, many. And they're thinking individually about the things that they can do with resilience. As you look at page 3 of the package, what it basically says, though, when you look at it, the grid is connected to how we generate power and a lot of other systems that we have. And so we have to think about resiliency in dimensions. And when you go to page 4, we have to think about trying to anticipate the challenges, be able to absorb the impact, be able to have an adaptation approach to look at the issue. How do we, again, get in front of it? And then, when necessary, have a recovery component to it. Accordingly, the major aspects of what we're doing is looking at the different issues that can happen. The rest of the paper goes on to say, can we look at our emergency operation procedures, look at our training, look at tabletop exercises. I will say that we have a tabletop exercise, I believe, that we're going to participate, that the city of San Antonio, under Eric Walsh's direction, is going to work at a major tabletop exercise for San Antonio, and we're going to participate. We're also going to work on a special tabletop exercise for utilities, and we're planning a session with SAWS. And those are just great exercises for us to see what we currently have and how we can do some overall process improvements well before we need it. I will stop there because it's, the paper goes on to talk about various aspects of resiliency and what we can do, and then also the aspect of, how could we also even improve our load shed management event. So more to come, but I wanted to introduce this paper to you today and tell you that we'll continue to be self-critical, looking at areas to expand and explore so we again can work on hardening the grid and improving the resilience through a major event. And I believe that is the end of my report, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. CEO, do we have any questions or comments for Ms. Williams? On her CEO report?
Just thank you for the presentation, Paula. I know that there's a lot going on right now, so I appreciate the support for all the moving parts, and that includes our mayor and all the trustees here. And I know we don't say it out loud, but I know that in all the conversations we have, I want to make sure that anything that we're looking at, that we do have an equity lens component to whatever resilient solutions or teaming solutions, private sector solutions, whatever technology, whatever we implement, that we assure that there's an equity component to how we view and study things. And so I know we've had those, whether they're official or unofficial conversations, but I wanted to make sure that we noted that as trustees and leadership, that we are looking at those things as well. So it's really just a general comment.
Yes, we are, and thank you for the comment.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Any other questions or comments? If not, we will proceed to item number 6, a resolution for appointment of treasurer to the CPS Energy Board of Trustees. Do we have a motion? Well, once we put on it says vote, we put a motion and get a second. We're voting on the resolution for appointment of treasurer to the CPS Energy Board of Trustees. Well, it's in there, item on the resolution. If you look at that on page 3, it's a resolution for approving, and that's Corey Koczynski. Okay, do we have a second? Second. We have a motion by Mr. Steen. We have a second by Mr. Kelly. And at this time, we would allow Mr. Corey Koczynski to come forward with Mr. Gold.
And as they're, yes, sir, and as they're coming up, again, I want to do a couple of things. I have worked with Gary Gold, and here sometimes it seems like eons, because we've had a lot to do. But Gary Gold has served this company well, and I want to say 16, close to 16 almost, that he's worked here in multiple different capacities and worked really hard to help CPS Energy. And I would generally say that Gary has one of the best theoretical financial minds that I've ever had the pleasure to listen to as he explores and helps us think about those challenges. And but ultimately, he earned it, and he got to be CFO last year, and it was my pleasure. Now, he forewarned me at the time that he may want to retire. He and his wife have worked really hard over the years, and now they have new horizons. I had hoped that I could talk him into staying. Of course, he has decided that he is going to retire. At the same time, though, he committed to me when he took the role that he would work on developing this team, and he has a very fine team, and he's done everything I have asked. He has worked about 40 years, and as much as I'd like to handcuff him to his chair, I have to recognize that retirement is one of the the biggest satisfactions of life, and he's moving on to do some special things with his family, his daughter, his wife, and their family. So I would like to take a moment to congratulate Gary for a great career and some thoughts about that service. So Gary, before I ask people to make a applause, do you want to make some comments?
Before we make the comment, could you please read the resolution, Ms.
Oh, sure. Sorry, hold on. Unless, Carolyn, would you like to do it? I think normally you do.
I'd be happy to.
That'd be great.
This is a resolution approving the appointment of treasurer for the CPS Energy Board of Trustees. Whereas the CPS Energy Board of Trustees is required to designate and authorize specific officers and staff to conduct financial transactions on behalf of CPS Energy. And whereas effective August 1, 2020, CPS Energy appointed Gary Gold to serve as the interim chief financial officer to oversee all of CPS Energy's financial functions. And whereas Mr. Gold announced that he will retire on June 30, 2021, and whereas to effectuate a smooth transition, effective May 17, 2021, Mr. Gold was named Chief Business Excellence Officer, and CPS Energy appointed Corey P. Kaczynski to serve as the Chief Financial Officer to oversee all of CPS Energy's financial functions. And whereas in his new role as CFO, Mr. Kaczynski, will assume responsibility for managing and directing the financial transactions that require Board of Trustees approval and will be providing support to the board related to these financial matters. And whereas Mr. Kaczynski was most recently and currently serves as an assistant treasurer, and whereas the board previously appointed Shannon R. Albert, who now serves as Vice President Accounting, Julie Johnson, who now serves as Senior Director, Treasury and Finance, and Maricela Benavides, who now serves as Senior Director, Financial Systems and Strategic Projects, to serve as Assistant Treasurers to the board. And whereas one treasurer and 3 assistant treasurers will facilitate more effective and timely financial transaction coverage. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the CPS Energy Board of Trustees hereby approves the appointment of Corey P. Kaczynski as treasurer to the Board of Trustees, effective May 17, 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Shellman.
You're welcome.
At this time, Mr. Go.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you to Paula for the kind words, and thank you to Paula and the entire board for the opportunity that was presented to me to serve as the CFO, and the opportunity and the honor to work for CPS Energy. It's been a real privilege. I have a fantastic financial services team that I've been leading, and it's just been an absolute privilege for me to be able to serve in this role. I have mixed emotions, obviously, because I really enjoy the people that I work with, but as Paula noted, I also, with my family, we have some things that we've got planned, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to spend time with my family. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
We would like to thank you, Mr. Gold, for serving in that leadership role of CFO. You've done an outstanding job, and I could appreciate the communication that we've had, that you've allowed us share it with us on our financial matters, and you've done a tremendous and a great job as CFO, and want to thank you. And Kaczynski is going to have big shoes to fill, but I know he can, and I visited with him after you shared that with me, and I welcome him. And with the same regards that you had as the CFO, and I know he's going to do a tremendous job, and we will support him and thank him. Thank you, Mr. Gold. We have any questions or comments for Mr. Gold? Yes.
Yes, I'd like to make a statement if I can, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, is your mic on?
No, his on. His is
it
on. Yes.
Can't hear him.
Okay, good.
You put it closer to you, Mr.
Technology
There you
is a test for me. But no, I just want to congratulate Gary on the outstanding performance that I've seen him implement over the years. I've now served on this board for 10 years, and I've watched Gary's performance. Gary, if you'll notice, is very quiet, very soft-spoken, but he knows exactly what's going on. And one of the things that always impresses me about a senior executive is not only can they speak at 30,000 feet, but they can drill down into the details. And I have found that repeatedly with Gary, where I have asked him specific questions, and he is able to get down into the trees and answer those because it's obvious he does his homework and he totally understands this company. And probably I've been tougher on Gary and the finance group than most of the other board members. My background is in finance. That's the pages I go to immediately when I get the board packet or the finance pages. And the reason I do that is this: I don't care how good your intentions are at your company and how great your motivations are. If you don't have the financial strength to deliver on it, then you'll fail. And so your good intentions and your great motivations and everything else will fail with you. So you have to have a strong financial underpinning to implement the things you want to do. And Gary and his team, in my opinion, have done a great job of doing that and keeping us on the right path, and of course under the leadership of Paula, who also has a very strong finance and operational background. So I just want to congratulate you, Gary, on a tremendous job and let you know how much admiration, and all the times that I harangued you over the years, I was just kidding. I really think you're a great guy, so congratulations. And Corey, you've got a tough job ahead of you, because you got some really big shoes to fill, and you can expect me to pound you as long as I'm still on the board.
Mayor.
Oh, Gary, thank you on behalf of the City of San Antonio for your great service to this organization and to our community. I know this has been an extraordinarily challenging time for the industry, and you've been in the driver's seat for that for a long time. So appreciate your service. We will miss you, but look forward to hearing about your adventures in retirement. And to your successor, Corey, who I've known for over 10 years now, great confidence in you, and I know you're up to the task. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Gary, I was among the many people that tried to talk you out of this move, so, but I understand the balance in your life and wanting to spend more time with your family and other things, but it's been a real honor for me to work with you, and I think Ed Kelly expressed it very well. When I called you to ask about, I'm not as adept at financial matters as Mr. Kelly is, but when I called you to ask about things, you had that ability to really make things clear. I know Ms. Gonzalez feels the same way. So we're going to miss you very much, Gary Gold. Thank you for your outstanding and loyal service to CPS Energy.
Thank you, sir.
And Corey?
And I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Corey, welcome to your new position, and good luck.
I'll make my brief. You know, as a parent, the greatest honor you have is to raise your children in a certain, you hope they pick up on some really good qualities. And my boys were raised to be gentlemen and scholars. And so in working with you, you're definitely the epitome of being a gentleman and a scholar. And I see those same attributes in Corey. So I'm looking forward to working with Corey, and we will definitely miss you. So thank you for being that gentleman and that scholar.
Thank you again, Mr. Gold, and I know Corey is going to do a tremendous job with that. And he has a second in command, Shannon Albers, right there, because her commitment to CPS and saying that she's going to be there, his right hand. And I think we have two fine peoples with Shannon Albert and Corey Kuczynski. And thank you, and for all the great things, Mr. Gold, that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that,
Mr. Corey, would you like to come up and say something, please?
Great.
And let us know how long you've been with the company and your job and what you're doing, what you've done, and what brought you to this point.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all the kind words, and a big thank you to Gary. It's been a great year working with him. And of course, thank you, Paula, for the mentorship and confidence over the number of years. But thank you very much, Chair Dr. Mackey. Appreciate the kind words, and appreciate the kind words from all the trustees. I've been at CPS Energy for 15 years. Came here pretty quickly after spending a couple years in public accounting. And what drew me to CPS Energy is what keeps me here today. I enjoy working for the community. I enjoy being part of something that is bigger than myself, and that's in part why I joined CPS Energy. So I appreciate the challenges. I recognize there are big shoes to fill with Gary. He's been great to work with, and so I'm encouraged by the opportunity, and I appreciate the support from the board, from Paula, and from the financial services team. As you mentioned, we have a very strong bench, and they are a great team to work with.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Am I remembering, you're Trinity, right?
Yes, sir.
And Eric, you're Trinity? And over there too, except you weren't on the football team, right?
Could have.
These Trinity people are doing pretty well, I think, at CPS Energy.
There you go.
I'll run away from him.
Thank you all. Thank you all, you gentlemen, very much. And at this time, before we go into closed session, executive session, I'd like Ms. Shellman to take us into executive session.
I think we need a vote, though, right?
Oh, yeah, we have to vote on that. Okay, what you call a? Yeah, you can go ahead and call it, yes.
Since we are all here, we can do an oral vote if you want to just do that, or do you want?
Yeah, we can do it on oral vote, that's fine.
Okay.
It seems like everybody, what I listened to, everybody's big support, so that'd be fine.
We do have a motion by Mr. Steen and a second by Mr. Kelly to adopt the resolution for appointment of Corey Kuczynski as treasurer to the board. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Resolution is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like for me to go ahead and
Please.
proceed? All right, at this time, the board is going to recess into an executive session to discuss matters that have been duly posted under several provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including consultation concerning attorney-client matters under Section 551.071, deliberations and other authorized action on real property under 551.072, prospective gifts or donations under 551.073, personnel under 551.074, security personnel or devices under 551.076, economic development negotiations under 551.087, to deliberate, vote, or take final action on competitive matters under Section 551.086, to deliberate regarding security audits and devices under Section 551.089, or to deliberate under Texas Government Code Section 418.183F about confidential information under the Texas Homeland Security Act. At the conclusion of the executive session, the board will reconvene in open session and continue the meeting. And it is, according to my watch, 2 o'clock, 4 minutes after 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shellman. At this time, we will proceed to executive session. I think we're going upstairs and we're going to follow you, Loretta? Okay, thank you.